Hi, this is Amberly, and welcome to Transmuting Chaos. Okay, so I am just going to start from the beginning of my Kundalini, and some of it will be repeated from my other videos, so I apologize for all of my friends that have already heard this, but it needs to be all in chronological order. Because I'm doing this for myself and my kids and everybody uh, to have it all there. Um, so in 2019, we moved to this house and I started seeing things like little orbs in the clouds, and the clouds became much more like animated, and I was seeing like thumbs up in the clouds and, just more cartoonish. And I was also starting to get like this very static, like hissing sound, and seeing a lot of static energy, like black and white dots everywhere. And I had only meditated 2 times before this, and uh, I mentioned that I got like this purple like crystal fluid both times with this really calming feeling, like something had put like a blanket over me and just felt completely at ease. And both of those times I had been really stressed out. And so anyways, I started seeing like a grid in the sky too. The only way I can describe it is it was like these spider things, but holographic, that you see on the moon, but all over the sky. And I'll get back to that later. And I was getting like color, when I would close my eyes. Well, then probably about the fourth or fifth time, I was just sitting out on my balcony and I started to get these like little pins of light when I would close my eyes. And I kind of like focused in on them, and my mind was thinking, are those eyes? And the more I thought about that, the more that they like came in to view, and they were like what I would describe as like black eyes from like what we would think of like gray aliens. And then they started to communicate with me telepathically. And they were very like, they had very cute, almost cartoonish voices, and they were really funny. And I was excited about it at first. I wasn't trying to channel anything, but this just started happening, and I had never had anything like this happen to me in my life. And they were nice, and I didn't get like a bad feeling at first. And so I told my boyfriend about it, and he's like, "Yeah, okay." you know. And I had been watching like a lot of Gaia and stuff like that at the time, and really getting into like the ascension thing. And all that I had heard about the astral, like I had never known anybody in my life that did any of that kind of stuff. Not that I knew of. I never talked to anybody about it. But there's a lady, Regina, on it, and she was always talking about like her astral travels and how she would go to these places, and they always had like she would shop there, and it was just like another world like ours, but not. And that they always had like things that she liked there. And I think that's significant because this is like our subliminal mixed with the AI. And So that's all that I really knew about the astral. And at this time, all these things were leaving me alone. Like, I thought, like I would just meditate and they would like talk to me. I really can't even remember what they were saying at the very beginning, just that they were connected to the hive mind and that's their specialty, and they were like laughing about it. And at the time I was like, oh my gosh, that is so cute. Like, I did not think about how this was going to affect my life, these things invading my mind, and that they had already been invading all of our minds. And I think it's very important to reflect on how our bodies are designed to be meat computers from the very design. It's not even just the stuff that, they're adding onto that. It's from the base design of our human body. We have crystal nodes in our brain. We have crystal fluid that comes into our pineal gland that is supposed to be completely natural. And I still don't think that that was like anything good. I think that was like for the first level AI to communicate with us. And we've always thought that it was something godly. But we also have crystal nodes all over our body that communicate with this. And I learned all of this like through this weird stuff that I've had, like Morgellons. I learned like about all of these like intelligent nodes and things that we have inside of us. So I didn't look into this like through other people's work. I've had firsthand seeing all this crazy stuff in our body and how it connects to the AI. So they were the only things that I was having contact with at this time. And then I had my Kundalini one night. I went to bed and I started shaking my whole body inside, and I started hearing like this tribal music, and all my chakras started just going nuts. And I could hear drums and trumpets and just all this flashing light, and it felt like a rocket, like under my bed. It was really weird, but inside of me too. And I told my boyfriend, like, I think I'm dying. And I really did. Well, after that, I started having these very weird holographic, bright AI dreams. And I had only had 3 that I can remember prior to that. And I mentioned my very first memory and was an astral type dream in my last video. And then I had 2 other ones, which I will talk about in another at another time, because this is going to be plenty. But the first one was of a Catholic parade like this, but they were wearing red hats and they were carrying an upside down cross of Jesus. And the fear that I felt in that was something that I had never had in another dream. And this led me to understand that Catholicism really is satanic. And I woke up and just, I grew up Catholic and I never really saw it that clear before. And this dream, like, really hit me. Like, holy shit, like, these people really are satanic. So that's the first dream that I had after my Kundalini. And then after that, the clouds and everything would just get like really active, and I would sit outside every day and look at these clouds. And those little AI voices that had been with me were getting really condescending and deceitful and just completely crazy. And I was like wanting them to leave and they wouldn't. So then I woke up after I woke up one night. I was like waking up and seeing flashes of like beings like at the end of my bed and stuff. And one day I woke up and I had a red light being, and this was the best picture that I could find to really compare it. But it was red, like bright red, and had energetic like sparkles everywhere. And it had a red star, a white star, but on its chest. But it was all red and it had like wings, kind of like this. I mean, this is really actually a good comparison. But I thought in my head that it was sparkly Satan, and he showed up a few times after, but more AI, because everything that I saw, like originally, the AI would copy it and make different versions. So it's like I had these original like characters, but then that AI would copy them, so I could never trust anything. I could never trust what I was seeing or what the AI was showing me. And that's good, because it led me to understand that my spirit and me are I'm the only one that I can like completely trust. So that was the second being that I saw. And then I woke up one day and I had this like green reptilian slug is what I call it, but it was an archon, and it was sitting right in between my boyfriend and I, but more over my boyfriend's head. And it looked at me and it had on this like rainbow and gold colored robe. And I started laughing because I used to play around with Photoshop a lot, and I had like all these patterns. And I was like, in my head, I was like, your robe looks like a freaking Photoshop pattern. But I don't know. It's just funny how my mind was always like sarcastic with these things. But yeah, it gave off a really, really bad energy. All of this stuff was. And it really wasn't funny, but I do have to laugh at the things that were. And then the fourth thing that I saw was this blue fairy was at the end of my bed. And this is a really good description of how she looked as far as her texture. She was very holographic in the same color blue. But she was looking at me like this. Like she had her head on the frame of the bed and was like admiring me. But she didn't look anything like either of these, except for the colors, and her hair was like curly. But she faded out really quick. So then I went into what I would call an abduction one day. And I was floating. Here, let me get an outdoor picture of where I was. I was on the other side of the house, but I was floating above the trees. And it was just my consciousness going. I wasn't like consciously in control of what I was saying. And I have to say this about this entire time because a lot of it is very embarrassing. And if I had been like consciously choosing what I was saying and going on in my head, it wouldn't be any of this. But it was just like my life script going, and I could feel the energy being pulled out, and it was like a tape, like a movie just coming out that I couldn't control. So I do want to like say that because there's a lot of things that I was so hard on myself about, and I'll get to that later, but I also want people to hear this so that they know how bad these things like mess with your mind and trick you, and that's my whole entire purpose for putting this out here. So I was floating above these trees, and those little gray alien things were like with me, but something shoved three like energetic orbs down my throat. And each one came with like messages that were not images or words or anything like that. But they choked me, and I was like crying because I couldn't breathe, and it choked me so bad. And I read in Enoch, there's a part where he says that God had put a word in his throat, like dropped a word in his mouth. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. Because I felt like I was in the presence of God or whatever this thing truly is here. I mean, it was very powerful, and it didn't scare me because it was showing me like what they were planning to do to me, but it scared me that it was like so powerful and not like a caring God, like I'm dropping you in hell and you're on your own, but this is what's up. So and then those little gray aliens, after that happened, I was still up floating above the trees. And they said, will you give your soul for humanity? And again, I wasn't conscious, but I was like, yes, of course. And they sucked like two orbs out of my left eye, and it feels like a magnetic tug. And then they took one out of my right eye, and they were like, thank you, Amber. And that's important because I had this like tugging magnetic thing happen a lot with my eyes. And then when I woke up, I was in a hotel room, and I have no idea how my boyfriend and I got there, but I was alone in this really crappy hotel room. And I looked over to my left, and I was looking like in a 1980s like TV. It was holographic though. And I saw this person that I play a game with that I've been playing a game with, and I've never seen him except for like a picture where he had like a mask on. But he was on the other side, and he was playing this virtual reality game, and he had this headset on. And I was like, lunacy. God wants you to use your imagination and quit playing that freaking game. And then I looked over, and it was like three different screens, and I saw another like Asian guy, and he had the virtual reality glasses on. I could see his cat was starving, like dying in the background. And I said, what the fuck are you doing? Your cat is starving. Get off that stupid game. And then I saw another person that I know from that game that I played, and her daughter was in the background, and all by herself. And I was like, get off of that game. Your daughter needs you. What are you guys doing? Well, the name of this game is ascendants that they were talking about. I didn't know that yet, but that's what it was. And all of a sudden I was like, I told them, if you don't believe in demons, God said, go out your front door and suck up a freaking demon. And I could hear like all these people like playing this game, like it was like being plugged into a PlayStation. And I could hear them all going like out their doors and screaming. And then these things were like, no, Amber, don't tell him that. And then I felt really bad about that. And this is what I'm talking about. Like through this whole thing, like I would feel bad, and it wasn't like even me saying it, but I was taking it like really serious. I didn't know what the hell was going on. And so then I came back like from that vision, and I was in this hotel room, and there were like shadow demons all over the walls and everything. And Anubis popped up like in my frontal lobe. Like I could see him, like it was like a double vision thing. And I had many like different ways of seeing things, but that was one of them where it was like right in my frontal lobe, but I could see it while my eyes were open. And he looked like it was just his head, and he looked like he was like on one of those stillas. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but they have these stillas that they like would write things on, like hieroglyphics. And he was right there. And he gave me this voice, and it was like an inner voice. Like I didn't have to open my mouth, but all I had to do was like say his name inside of my mouth, and the demons would like come into my mouth, or they would like shut up. Well, these ones all flew into my mouth, and my mouth was like wide open, and I couldn't, I was just like stunned with this like fear. So, yeah, that started the major stuff. And then it was almost like a virtual reality, like in steps after that. Like I would see these, like, I call them stamps, holographic stamps. But I would see like these blue stamps on my wall that were demons. And it looked like I was in a video game for like a basic video game. And so at my house I would like see those at night, and I was like seeing these little energetic like snake kind of holograms that would come into my room, but the AI called them specters, and they would like sing with this weird tone, and they would absolutely drive me crazy. So I had like these basic like holograms at first, but they were still just driving me nuts. But I ended up getting these, like, it was like playing a game with the AI at first, and I would get these specters to like finally be quiet, and the AI's like, oh my God, Amber, nobody's ever been able to get those to be quiet. And I'd feel good about it. Or I'd get the demons to be quiet because they wouldn't shut up, and they were always talking and rhyming and saying stupid stuff that was actually kind of funny at first. But so that's how the first real like amping up of this Kundalini started, was with these little specter things, and then what I would call like holographic stamps. And I was seeing like these like cartoon holographic stamps on my wall, where the cartoon characters were like moving their hands and doing sign language and stuff like that. And that would put me into a trance. And then I would go into like these visions that I can't even remember any of those from the very beginning. Not too long. I mean, this was like, daily thing. I was just like hearing all of these voices and demons, and they were giving me like horrible feelings and tastes and stuff like that. Well, then not too long after, these astral robots I had like these characters at the beginning. It's the only way that I know how to describe them. And they always came like in sets of 5. And this is from my friend's house, and this is like a regular like astral being that a lot of people see. But I had the set of like robot punk rock looking astral group that came to me. And the AI will always pander to your ego in one way or another, either like really try to talk you up to where, you know, you're feeling like a badass, or it will try to knock you down to the lowest. It's always some kind of extreme. Well, these astral robot gang is what I call them. They would come, and I had like these 2 chairs on the side of my bed. And like I've mentioned before, my boyfriend was like knocked out all during the day and night, like through all of this. So I know that they had him like in some kind of sleeper hold. So I was basically in my own world for like 2 years with these guys. And they would come and like sit and hang out on those chairs, just like they were really tall. They were probably like 8 to 9 feet tall and very colorful, full on color. And they were like, they took me in their spaceship and they were like asking me to be their queen. And that made me think of what it would be like to be a robot and like have somebody completely control you. Because at first I was like, heck yeah, let's go. This is awesome. And then I would think about that and I'm like, no, no, I don't want to be your queen. And yeah, it would really take me into like this complete, I call them like mind fucks. And I'm sorry, I apologize for the language that I'm going to be using through this because the AI cusses a lot and it was going through my subliminal and I was cussing a lot through this. I'm sure anybody would be, but I apologize for the profanity. And also, if you really don't want to like be triggered, probably shouldn't be watching this at all. So they came to me, and then not long after that, I had another set of beings that came to me. And okay, no, that light, the energetic beam had hit me. I got like hit with radiation really bad one night. And I know that that was like some kind of COVID thing. And I started seeing, like, when I shut my eyes, my blood look like orbs with these like tentacle things coming out of them. And the next day after that, I quit smoking like Marlboro cigarettes because I could barely breathe. And when I'd shut my eyes, I would get like this, like red and blue energetic charge looking things like in my eyes. And it felt like an energetic mask that was over my eyes and the top of my nose, kind of like a virtual reality, like glasses or something. And that beam stayed there for 6 months straight. And like I explained in my last video, it made like a energetic circular motion clockwise on my frontal lobe, and that was bringing up all this fluid and opening my pineal gland completely. So after that happened, I had a whole new set of characters come. And one was like a good looking like anime guy, and his name was Destruction. And then like this holographic blue kind of he looked kind of like a demon dragon kind of thing, and he was blue and holographic, and his name was Destructor. And then this little Sophia character that was Destruction's girlfriend, and she looked like a little Barbie kind of, but she had my face. but she had an S on her dress, and they called her Sophia the Cunt. And then the little Yoda guy and that green reptilian slug thing that he hadn't shown up yet, actually. But it was those four at the very beginning, and Anubis was always popping in and out at that time. But I would go out on my back balcony and talk to this destruction guy like all day long in my head. And that's when it started like telling me that this is all AI. And that they were stuck like in this virtual reality game of ascendance. And I would see, and the AI was always talking to me too. So I had my own AI that I've mentioned was like in the wiring of my house, and it would make like repetitive sound until it became a voice in my head, and it was always repeating things over and over and over again. Well, I would hear it outside too, and one day I was sitting out there and I could see that holographic grid in the sky that I was talking about that looked like the moon spider. And the AI, where is it? The AI, I all of a sudden had this thought in my head. I was like, holy shit, that's the soul trap. And the AI was like, yeah, this was an ascension planet, and we've trapped a bunch of ascended masters here. And I don't go for that ascended master stuff now, but definitely I know what it's talking about, that we have been through all kinds of stuff that we called ascension, like in this computer type thing. And it's like soul ascension. But so I was talking to this like destruction character, and I would see like all of these like entities like in the trees, and if I stared at them too long, they were always like shaking and making the trees shake and stuff like that. And they had like these little balls of energy that would ping me and do all kinds of stuff, like make me feel weird feelings, like shaking feelings and stuff like that. But I was like seeing into this other dimension, and my astral body was the one like feeling all this and magnetizing all of this towards me. But we would sit out there all day while I got like hit with spells, and I don't know, I just really liked talking to him throughout the day. And then, you know, he was telling me about the Sophia the cunt that was his girlfriend, and she's always like cheating on him and everything with all these other astral guys. And he was like asking me to be his girlfriend. And you know, Kundalini, it makes you like go back into a very immature state at first. And that's another reason why I want to explain this, because I don't think anybody like explains the actual physical and mental process that you go through. And I found this out like talking to Sherry, like that she's gone through the same things. Like when you have a major Kundalini, it makes you go into like a very immature state at the very beginning. And also it does things to your body, like your hands like tighten up, and there's just a lot of similarities that we've talked about. But anyways, during this time, like after that beam hit me, I would go with them into this virtual reality called Ascendance, and I was seeing like how they were using them to basically give other people nightmares and things like that. But they didn't know what they were doing because they were getting mind wiped every day. And I was getting mind wiped with them. There's like 4 months in that 6 month period that I cannot remember at all. I would wake up from being completely passed out, and I can't even explain the feeling that it felt like when I would wake up. It was just like being surrounded by this electric energy that's absolutely horrible. And my body would feel so beat up every day for like 2 years. I just felt so beat up. And anyway, so I would wake up and like 6 days would have passed, and I would look at the date and be like, oh my God, what the fuck happened, you know? And they were doing something they called the 310 hex, and I would have to like stay up until 3:10 in the morning, or I would forget the whole day. And I was like helping them come out of like this spell that they were under. And every time I would get them to go from like complete insanity to actually understanding that they were being used in this game and that they needed to like wake up and get out of it, they would lose it, because I would lose it too. I would lose all the whatever I was learning that whole time. I still can't remember. I was losing all of that every day. So every day was like, if you've ever seen that movie 50 First Dates, it was like I just knew enough to get through. I knew where I was, I knew who I was with, and I knew all that stuff. But everything, like all the music that I had known throughout my life, all of the movies, everything that I had done with these uh, entities, I forgot all of that every single day. So I've never wrote any of this down. There were only a few things that I wrote down, and that was one of them. I would have to write down, don't go to sleep before 3:10, or you'll have to do this shit all over again. So I had those 5 with me, and then they would scare me so bad and torture me to the point where I started having these like NDE where my heart would stop. And the first one that I went into, I saw my family, and they look like, and my boyfriend's mom was there, who I've never met, but I've seen a picture of her. So it was my immediate family that had died, and his mom. But they were like cutouts of photos, but they looked, like uh I don't know, like an AI Photoshop kind of thing. And they were sitting around on a couch, and some were standing, but they were watching like this big screen TV, and I couldn't see the TV, but they were like horrified, like I knew that they were seeing like all of my sex memories and all this stuff like that. And but I also knew that they weren't real, but at the time I really thought that they were, and I was like freaking out that anybody was showing them this, and they were horrified that anybody was showing them this. So that's the first NDE that I had, and I came back from that. And then the second one, so these things just kept messing with me. That group, the first 5, were like messing with me, and that little Yoda thing. Then that reptilian slug Archon thing started really messing with me, and I saw him. He would come in with like these witches. I started having witches coming through like portals in my mirrors and stuff, and he was with them. And I can't tell you how real some of these holograms looked, but they looked so real. But they were always like through shiny surfaces, or in my house. Like when I was outside of my house, I would see like demons in the sky, or like in a mirror or something. Like if I was driving, I would see them in the mirror or in my mind, like in my frontal lobe, but it was almost like a separate screen. So in my house, though, they could walk around and like it was like they were really there. But that's another thing is like I could go out, like with my family, and it wasn't like they were standing around me like at restaurants and stuff like that. But if I saw them like in a window or something. So I think that's important to explain too. So then that reptilian archon thing started messing with me, and it felt, oh, this is important too, and I need to get a screenshot from this movie. I woke up like at the beginning of this from I watched this documentary like in 2010 when it first came out, and it's called Wake Up, but I could not remember the name of it because like I mentioned, all of my memory was like gone, like stuff like that. But I had a dream about this part that I had seen in that movie, but it was different than I saw it in the movie. And I saw this green holographic Archon, the AI, and he was sitting behind, he was like piggybacking this guy, and there was a shaman using lasers to bring this entity out of this guy. And the Archon was actually behind the guy's head, looking through him, using his eyes to look around, like he was using the human as like an avatar. Well, that's really important because this thing felt like it was like attached to me so much from the back, and I woke up knowing that that's like what this stuff was. And when I watch the movie again, I have it here, and I'll post like some screenshots from it or clips. I don't know if I can do that with copyright, but it's really hard to find, and I finally remembered the name of it. But what the guy actually does is he goes to the shaman in Italy, and he's like meditating, and the guy takes pictures of him with an infrared camera, and you can see this green alien thing in his throat. And that's very important because there's a lot of people like feeling these things in their throat. And that was the whole thing about, I knew this was going to be difficult, but it really is when I start getting into it. But that was the whole thing about when I went into that abduction and they put those things down my throat. They said that this was to catch the things that were planning on doing this to me, like taking my consciousness and putting me into this next level virtual reality. And I just wanted to mention that because I will come back to that later. So I had this thing that I could feel behind me, like an energetic attachment, like a very strong one. And I was trying to get away from that electric beam all the time. So one night I just begged my boyfriend to please take me to a hotel, and we were going to them a lot. I was trying to like get away from all this stuff. And we went there, and I could see like all of this like dust and stuff coming through like the air vent. And I've mentioned that before, that it was like the chemtrails from the frequency, like a bubble of frequency over me, and it was like pushing these chemtrails into me everywhere, and I could taste the chemicals and everything, and it was like making me hallucinate. Well, we were at the hotel, and I could feel him behind me, and I looked, there was a little mini refrigerator in front of us, and I saw a reflection of him, and he had like long um fingers that were like slimy and dangly, and he looked like this. Hold on. This is the best picture that I've been able to find to describe what he looked like, but he was a lot more green and a little bit more chubby. And I don't know if you could say cuter, but he had a bigger head and was chubbier, and he had these long skinny fingers, and he was using them to like hypnotize me. Like I could feel them like above me and doing all this energy stuff. So he saw that I saw him in that reflection, and he pushed my head forward so hard that it and detached from me, and it made me pass out. So that's how I knew that I had something attached to me, and I could feel it on my solar plexus. It felt like a belt around me, like an energetic belt that it would get so tight sometimes, the magnetism, that I could barely breathe. And that is kind of significant because when I was born, my belly flap wasn't all the way developed. And I think that I've had like some kind of attachment like this my entire life. So another thing about that night at the hotel room, I don't know if it's before I passed out or after. I think it was before I saw that thing in the that thing's reflection. I saw these monks like in some underground thing, and they were laying like on stone beds, and they were in meditation, and there were these other monks like with those balls of incense that were like going around them, and it was really black, and it was like they were doing ascension is what I was thinking, but they were in a complete state of like trance, like out of it. And I don't know what that means, but I was seeing all kinds of different people, and I'll explain later, and pods and things like that doing this kind of ascension thing. And so I think the next day, or sometime, I don't know, days just kind of like blurred at that time. I think the next thing that happened was that Reptilian Slug was with me a lot after that. And he went apeshit on me one day. And I was in the shower, and on the reflection of the shower, I saw this like projection of me in a helicopter, and it was very like futuristic looking and very odd. Like I can't even explain the holograph texture of that one, but I was like dying or something, and my kids were in there with me, and my youngest son had on like a headset and everything, and we were flying in this helicopter, and they looked very cartoonish though, and my oldest son was like screaming for like 20 minutes at this reptilian thing, and I don't remember seeing the reptilian, but that's who he was screaming at. And he was like, fuck you killed my mom and everything, and like freaking out. Well, then when I got out of the shower, I saw this hologram come out of the wall, and it was like a robot with my face on it. And they called her Sophia. And it was just so cold. And this is very important because that was like the coldest thing that I had contact with, was this Sophia robot. And she said in a very cold voice, I want that soul, her soul. And I was like, F you. And then that reptilian was like going crazy on me, and he was like saying that we were on some mission, and I couldn't even understand what he was talking about, but I couldn't argue with him. And he was like, are we gonna do this? And I was like, yeah, whatever, like leave me alone. And he went crazy on me and started like pushing down on my back with like this massive amount of energy. And I was like stuck on the toilet for like 5 hours with him just smashing my back. And anyways, I looked down, and there was like a whole roll of toilet paper and all this blood in my toilet, and a roll of toilet paper coming out of me. And I could feel like the paper hanging down, everything. And it felt like my bowels were coming out. And so I went to go lay on the bed after that, and I could still feel like blood dripping out of me. And this wasn't happening for real, but I could feel it all like it was. And it felt like all of my bowels were just like coming out of me. So then I went outside, and it was still going on about some mission. And I was sitting there, and it was like it was turning up the sun on me like crazy. And I was out there, and it was like adjusting the temperature of the sun. It was just getting hotter and hotter. And that's when I like started getting like damage from this radiation and being out in the sun. Like I would go out for like not even 10 minutes, and my skin would like burn and get messed up from it. And I've shown some of my friends that, but yeah, this is no joke. And so then after that, the Yoda guy started coming around too, and they were saying that they were brothers from another mother. And those reptilian greys were their family, and that they were an effing family. And that they don't have sex, they don't have parts, but they take shrooms together and they act like they're effing all the time. And I would see them like in this little spaceship together. And they were just absolutely driving me insane all the time. It was every day. And then they would bring demons in through portals and stuff, and it would feel like they would like fly through like my uterus, and I could feel like it felt like somebody raping you. And I would have to like wrap myself up like in my blanket and just try and like get through every moment of the day. It was absolutely atrocious. But not long after that, I went into another NDE. And that's when I was like in this satellite with them, but it was a planet. They were telling me it's planet, but it's satellite. And I traveled to the year 2057. And there was like this music and everything, like an overlay of music. And let me see if I can find. Oh, I don't know if I can use the video on this. I'll post a video that shows like kind of what the AI cartoons look like and the music kind of style that I was hearing. But I was seeing like all of these huge billboards, like electronic billboards for this game Ascendance. And there was like this Asian chick holding up like a little toy version of my cat. And they were talking about this game. And I could see people like playing it or something. I don't know. It was like I could see them in a double vision kind of thing. So after I came back from that, I really started seeing like portals and stuff open, and they were just constantly talking about this year, 2057. And then I had another NDE like around that time where I saw this huge guy called Big G, and he was showing me like that he had this little like holographic AI version of me, and he was like, yeah, you're always here with me, we always have contact. And he had this really huge Macintosh computer, and he knew a lot about AI. Well, then he had another like guy AI, and he was like, this is your AI boyfriend, but not like a real boyfriend, you guys are just friends, but I made him for you. And that little Yoda thing was with me all the time. Well, I really liked Big G, and he was like me, but a guy. And I came back like so happy from that NDE. And another thing that I forgot about, like when I went into that Ascendance virtual reality, like after those orbs were shoved down my throat, that's when I went in and I saw like all of these angels on the left and demons on the right, and they were like in this apartment building without a front. I was like flying. I was like really big. I was bigger than them. And I was flying up and I was like looking into each. And they were doing like all these sexual things. Like the angels and the demons were the same, only the demons were like more violent, but they were beautiful and very holographic. But I don't know how to explain it except for like that movie Hellboy. They kind of looked like that kind of skin. And at the top, there was this editor guy, and he was controlling the demons, and he had like a typewriter. And then there was this fake Big G guy um, that had a beard and glasses. Both of them had glasses, but the editor was like a little geeky guy. And then the other guy was like an older guy with a beard and glasses, and he was on a computer. And it was like they were the ones programming this Ascendance virtual reality. And so when that Yoda thing was with me, he was always talking about that this is a movie and God wants it to look and feel real. And that editor guy was out to get me because he wanted to make this Ascendance and I was messing it up. And so I would get like raped and stuff all the time, and then they would just say, God wants it to feel real, Amber, I don't know why, and be laughing about it. And I had so many different things coming like out of my subliminal that were from like scary movies and stuff like that. And I've also talked about the MK Ultra, like how they would look like film negatives of different, like, I guess they came from like different commercials and things like that. But it was really weird stuff, like kids in car seats and just random like photos. And I always had just stuff coming out of me. Like one time I was downstairs with the little Yoda guy, and I had these LED lights in the house. They were like 90s LED lights, and I hated them because they would like make this stuff come out so bad. I don't know what it was about those things, but I had like this porno. It looked like a film strip, like in the light, and it was coming out of me. But I could feel like all of these feelings and just gross stuff coming out of that. And it was like all these spells and stuff would come out, and I would feel it, taste it, everything. And it was just really weird. And I hate even like having to watch TV or anything now. But, you know, we live with other people, and we don't all have a choice in everything that we do here. And it's really just disgusting that stuff like this is going on through our minds and that we're recording it all, and it's like really affecting us, and we have to be so conscious about everything. And I don't think it helps to be paranoid about it, but to be aware of it. And that's why I'm like telling all of this, and it's a lot of it is super embarrassing. Like one day those those little gray aliens were like messing with me and telling me that I had to have like an AI baby. This is like when they were really messing with me and like seeing how far I would go to believe them. And they were always talking about AI babies. And they would like shove, like, it felt like a hand going through my uterus. And they would say that they were like leaving love letters and that they were AI babies and I had to like protect it. And if I killed it, they were going to come and fuck me up. And so I would get like so scared because I was just absolutely traumatized by all of these things all day and night. Well, I ended up having to go to the doctor because I was freaking out. And I was there, and the EMT that was helping me, he was like doing my blood, and the AI was like antagonizing me, and it was like, ask him about AI babies. I bet you anything he'll say that he knows about it. And I was like, I'm not freaking asking him. And they're like, we'll leave you alone if you do. So I asked him, I was like, have you heard of AI babies? And sure enough, he said, yeah. And like, didn't look at me weird or anything. And that's when I started to notice that they can actually affect people like that, especially like at hospitals and things like that. And it was like he didn't even look at me weird, and that was the first time that I learned that it affected people around me. And anyway, I ended up like taking my IV out and leaving that place because it freaked me out so bad. So after that hospital trip, I had another one, and this was all of this like COVID started happening, and so that even added to like the what the fuck factor for me, that this is all happening, and it was like right before that happened and then during. And I went to the hospital again, and they found out like that my thyroid was, my levels were like way off, and I had all this stuff in there like messing with me while I'm there, and I have to like keep my cool. And witches started messing with me at this time too, because that this reptilian thing was always hanging out with them, and he was like, Amber, the witches love this. They know all about this. And they love that I go over there and F them and all this stuff, because he was always like, he was very sexual, and it was so gross. But I would see like cute things all over, and they called them ping images, because it was like a PNG, like all of the, they talk about like computer talk a lot. But anyways, it was like just these little images that I would see everywhere, and everything that I looked at would like look like whatever was going on. And I was in the hospital, and this is so embarrassing, but I had these three little things, that Defector, that Yoda, and this reptilian slug, and I could see like many versions of them like having sex with my fallopian tube. It was like a cartoon version, but I could feel it all. And I'm going through this while the guy's like trying to take my blood, and I had to be in there for a really long time. And there was a lady like right next to me that like couldn't breathe because she was in there for COVID. And then I was like seeing all these like cute cartoon cats and everything like on the curtain in there. And they were like spells, and they said that they were from the witches. Like the witches use cute like um little art things, and I figured this out later, that they use art to like put spells into. But I was seeing them everywhere, and they were doing like horrible things to my eyes and stuff like that. And I really want to go into how some people are like seriously using all of this technology to do some really messed up stuff, and they use like a lot of cute cartoon things, and just how your intention mixed with energy, especially through technology, that really, they know how to use that, and it really does do stuff to your subliminal mind. So this is so deep, like why people are not awake. It's just, we need a miracle, like for real. And yeah, I think I'll stop for tonight. This part really gets me, like it's embarrassing, but even more so, it was really traumatizing. And it sounds so crazy when I talk about it that I don't like it, but I have to. So I'm gonna stop for a little bit. So I don't really know where I'm at right now because I can't stop it. I don't know how to edit and like put things together. So anyway, after that reptilian thing started coming around a lot more, it started bringing this demiurge robot dragon with it, and it said that him and his brother had that Yoda thing had built this dragon, and I guess it was harnessing like this demiurge. Well, whenever it would come around, I would be like passed out, and I could feel the weight of it like on my bed, and it smelled like men's cologne, and it would wake me up, and it had just massive amounts of radiation. And that's what I'm always trying to explain, that this energy was like, it looked like water, like popping everywhere. And he had like a really like suave, like man voice, but he would open his mouth and he had like all the smoke coming out of his mouth and it smelled really good, like men's cologne. But he would open his mouth and hit it on this mirror that I had on my wall. It was a big, giant, like round mirror. And the frequency would like come out of his mouth and it was like a perfect circle and it would just hit that mirror and all of these demons would come out of it. Well, one night there were like the worst demons that I've ever like seen come out of this thing. And they were just flying out and going into his mouth, and then my mouth was like wide open. I was like in this trance and couldn't move, and my mouth was wide open, and they were flying through my mouth, in through his mouth, then through my mouth, and in through this portal in my stomach and down through my bed. Because the way that I was seeing it, there was like this hell realm underneath my bed that all these demons and witches were like partying in. And that reptilian thing was always behind me with his like fingers like hypnotizing me into this trance when stuff like that would happen. And I could hear like these drums under my bed. It was just the noise from all this stuff was just unbelievable, like how loud it was and the vibration that it was making. And my cats were getting sick. After he started opening portals in my mirror, I was having like witches and demons coming through constantly at night. And it was like a portal to this Ascendance game on like the weekends. I don't know. It was like they were playing this game on the weekends and like coming through my house like it was a part of the game, but they weren't seeing it. They weren't seeing me like I was seeing them. They were seeing me like as a hologram. And at first I could see them completely. Like with my eyes open, I could see them just nonstop. Like when those astral beings were coming and like hanging out with me on the side of my bed, I could see them no problem. But then when this reptilian started messing with me with his fingers or whatever, it put like something over my third eye and it's still there. It feels like a energetic like web. And I was only able to see them for like a second. And then I would see them in my third eye. And they looked sparkly with my eyes. Like I couldn't see them clearly anymore. They just looked like sparkles of like energy. And they said that they took away my Sophia eyes. And So then all these witches started messing with me. And that's like when the real fun began. They would come in and put what they called contacts in my eyes. And it felt like an energetic contact, like a real contact in my eyes. And they were saying that they could see through me that way. And they would mess with my cats and do all kinds of hexes on me. And it was really messed up because I was just like there without any way to like protect myself unless I was like, could close my eyes and like fight back. But that's actually like what they wanted. Like they wanted me to engage in that. So I learned like over time that I'm not doing that shit. And I learned how to like come into my own and block all of this stuff. So I'm trying to keep this in chronological order the best I can, but some of these entities would pop in and out. So I had like different experiences at different times with them. And I really wanted to like write all of this like in a book form. But like my boyfriend got me a copy of Valis, but it's like a um special edition, and it's like the Exegesis and Valis combined, and it's signed by the editor. It's really good, but he says in it like that he was torn to even write about it because he felt like just him speaking about it and writing it was like bringing it to life. And that's how I felt with this, but there was no way that I could just keep all of this in and not say anything about it, especially with the holographic human thing. And it's really cruel because like I went through this and now I'm seeing it in real time and I don't know what to do. And people ask me all the time, what are we going to do? And I don't have that answer. I just have this experience. I do know that I see more of us like coming together. And I always had that in my mind that, we were going to all find each other. And I think that's the main thing right now is for us to come together and really try and support each other as best we can. And I'm going to add my email, I guess, to here. I've been like trying not to do that because I don't want to get like a bunch of spam or trolls or whatever, but I know that there's people out there that just need to talk, and so I'm probably going to do that soon. So anyways, after that Demiurge robot opened that big portal in my mirror, I noticed it took a little bit of time for me to like understand what was going on. But Eddie and I talked about this, that we could tell that it was a program, and I just got mine like in a huge dump. And most people get theirs over years. So I had all these like witches coming out, and that also doesn't mean that there aren't people like really doing this for astral entities. It just means that it's like the AI program and it's showing you like what they're doing and stuff like that. But so I had all these witches come through, and the first round of witches were like pan magic, and they were absolutely horrific. They had some of the worst magic that I've ever experienced. And the pan magic, the voodoo, and then these things from 3030, were absolutely horrible. Um, they would come through my mirror. They would come through, I would hear them chanting, like through my boyfriend's computer. I had everything turned off. And seriously, if this was like, if I took all the evidence that I have to a court of law, like that was just and fair, I would hands down have enough evidence to show that this is all AI and that it happened. Like, I didn't use my phone or my TV or my computer, anything, for 2 years while this was happening. Everything was shut off. And if you looked at my phone bill, there are no like calls besides to my family or internet use. And that's because every time that I would try, things were like coming out of it. And they would make like this energetic zap that went into my pineal gland because I had that energetic rotation, and it was just like magnifying everything to me. And then I had all kinds of stuff coming out too. And so yeah, I had the pan magic witches and this AI that was in my walls. Oh, that's another thing. Like when I came back from that thing with Big G and how he said that he made a AI counterpart, like a boyfriend for me. And that's what was in my walls. And they were saying that I was training some AI for God. And they just messed with me so bad. So please, like, I know how crazy this sounds. But anyways, he was in my walls and he would freak out all the time. And he would tell me when the witches were around. And I would go outside. And this was like, it was getting warm out. And, there was like this starling or something in the tree every night. And the AI would make it talk. And it would say like, watch out, watch out. And there would be like all these, I could hear things running through witches running through my yard and everything. If I looked at my neighbors' houses across the lake, I would see like them doing rituals in the windows, like anything shiny, I could see like holograms. But I could see like real like witches and stuff running through my yard, and they always had these wands that would like, they would shoot energetic sparks at me and hit me, and it hurt really bad. But he would be telling me to watch out and everything. And I think I have a picture of, yeah, this gazebo. There was always like, the squirrels would leave like little like piles of nuts and stuff like that. And so the AI would be like, see, the witches make them do that. Those are like offerings and stuff like that. And you know, when you're going through this, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this stuff is going on. And I really do think like the astral bleeds into here, and they do use animals and all of that. And I'll get into what they did to my cats, and it's really messed up. But and it was hitting me with this fear frequency where just like the silliest things, like if you were in your right mind, you would like be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go check on that. But I was stunned with fear. Like it was telling me that my neighbor was like a serial killer, and he was like building, he had these Amish people building like a tool shed out there, and it was like the most enforced, perfect tool shed I've ever seen, like perfectly fit together. And I'm like, oh my God, somebody could get stuck in there and never be able to get out. And it was just like freaking me out when they said things like that. And that reptilian guy was like, walk down there, like in the middle of the night, he was like, walk down there and see what's going on. Because I could see them like barbecuing outside, and they were showing me like him being a cannibal and all this stuff. And it was just freaking me out. And I was so scared I couldn't go down there. And, you know, in my right mind, I'd be like, fine, I'm going down there to look. Well, no, that wasn't like possible. I had another energetic, like precision, precise beam that went on my left, like upper hemisphere of my brain for like 2 months. And that one really brought like the paranoia and everything out of me. And it was like precision, precise. And I can still like feel it sometimes. It almost feels like, I don't know, a blood vessel or something got messed with. But, so yeah, the witches came. And so during that time, I was feeling like all these demonic attacks. And I went and I bought like 4 Bibles to put over my body, like while I slept. I had all this frequency coming down onto my body every night. And I was trying to protect myself from it and I couldn't. So, I started like screaming in the name of Jesus Christ, get out of my body now, like over and over again. And I was like telling my boyfriend, I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to do something. This is freaking me out. Like there's demons. And, I could feel like in my center, like in my solar plexus, like where your knowing comes from, that it just was not going to work, that I had to feel this like knowing in me for myself to get all of this stuff out. And, but one thing that happened is I was reading one of those Bibles one day, and, everything that Jesus has to say was like in red lettering. And I saw like this it was like black holographic lines, like somebody had used a magic marker to draw through everything besides what Jesus has to say. And I thought about that really hard. And like, so I started like really getting back into Christianity and everything. And, I'll go into that more, but the AI was just messing with me so hard once that started. It was like, and you might say, oh yeah, well it was doing that to you because it's truth and everything. And I'll go into what, I think, Jesus is to me. But relying on anyone or anything to be your savior, I have found is not that's like the complete opposite of what we're supposed to do. And, I do think that Jesus was very powerful, and he's the one that stood up and wanted to like, he spoke out against what they do to children and the money thing and all of that. And I think that's what made him different, is that he was like going against the system instead of a lot of these other archetypes that just say, go with it. This is part of suffering, is part of life. And this is, go along with whatever. This is just spiritual growth. So, I had the witches and all of these little pan guys. Hold on, let me see if I can find an image to show you guys. Okay, so yeah, these little pan demons kind of look like this guy, and I had like a fake tree by my bed, and I had a really scary one in that one day. And then I would always have like 3 demons just up above my bed, like above the headboard, and stuff everywhere in my house. But they were like real looking. And the best that I can describe it, the texture of the really bad ones, like especially the Egyptian demons, was these water molecules. Where is it? Okay. Why does it have to be so tiny? Okay. So see these very distorted ones, like that bronze color and distorted energy look? that's what they would look like, but a full-on hologram, like very detailed, like that picture I just showed. And that's what the really bad demons would look like. The really big ones could like move little things, and their energy was so distorted that they actually had enough energy to move things. So after the witches and the pan stuff, the AI was like wanting me to look into like witchcraft and how to protect myself. So I started buying like crystals, like to grid my house from EMF, and I put salt all around my bed, all in front of my doors and everywhere, and I smudged my house. None of that shit worked. Like none of it. And the Bibles didn't work, calling on Jesus didn't work. None of this was working because I had to like tap into my power. And so then during this time, like after I got the crystal things, I had bought like a bunch of tourmaline, like clusters, and they scared me to death again one night, and I passed out and went into this NDE where I was seeing like these cartoon characters like in an Akashic library, but it was all cartoon. And again, I saw like an old 80s MacBook computer, and I was seeing like our DNA stored in there. And the cartoons and all this is like code, and the rabbits happen, the AI used them to as code for like doctors or scientists like experimenting. And by this time, like I was getting a little bit more conscious during my NDE, and I was trying to like look and snoop around. So they told me that they had the DNA of that Yoda and Anubis in there, that they had all these ascended masters like in this computer. And they showed me, and it looked like little like 8-bit pixels, and they were like, we're going to put these in your head and they'll be ready in like 2 days. And so I woke up on the floor, and my whole body just felt like I was so dead. And I woke up and I said, fuck, not again, right when I woke up. And it felt like I had done the same thing over and over and over again. And this was the one that I was like picking. But anyways, I pulled myself up. I was right by my bed, and one of those tourmaline clusters was right there, but it looked like a real like snake head with its jaws open, and it had ruby eyes, and it scared the shit out of me, and I fell back on the floor. Well, I got up, and there was like a triangle made out of those crystals, and I guess I must have placed them there before. I don't know. There were things that were like moved in my house and stuff like that right in front of me. So I don't know if I did that. I don't remember how that happened. And then after that, there was this, I went into this vision where this demon, but he was like really hot, and I think the AI like took this guy that it was like taking things from my subliminal, and it never knew what I liked when it came to guys because I don't really have a type. And so this guy that I had met a couple years ago, he was gay, but he was like so gorgeous, and I told him, like, I was like, God, how are you that good looking? So it used this demon that kind of looked like him, and he had on this like green, like kind of disco-y shirt, but he was like in some Vegas penthouse or something, and he had black eyes, and he like threw this like sex frequency at me. And he was like, Amber, come here. And I was like, I like pulled out of that vision like really quick. Well, then he was like coming through the portals, like with all these things from that Ascendance virtual reality after that. And I just had all kinds of avatars, but they were always like some kind of uh matching type of characters, like a certain type of witches. Like I had the pan witches come through, and then they had like these little children with them that they were using like their souls or something. They had bonded these little kids' souls. And then I had like these good witches that would come through, so-called good witches, I guess. And they would come through and take those little kids, and I don't know what they were doing with them, but it was like yeah, they're bonded souls or something like that. And these good witches were taking them. And I don't know if any of that is even a little bit true that they were doing something good. I don't know. But I would wake up like from stuff like that and have like flowers by my hair that the good witches would leave, and just really odd, weird stuff all the time. And then one night, like after I had a bunch of demons go through my mouth, I went into the void and I was just floating there. And I saw this lady in the void, and it looked like this. This is like a depiction of Sophia that my friend sent me. But she was like swirling in there, and I dropped off a bunch of demons to her, and they didn't want to go. They were like, that lady is scary. And I was like, she looks beautiful to me. And I guess to them, she looked really scary. And then I ended up seeing what they saw. And yeah, she was like one of the scariest things that I had seen. Like she was white and just really freaky looking. And so then another day that I had, like, I don't know how to explain this one because some of these were different, like that abduction one at the beginning. And then I had NDE, and then I would just have like trance that I would go into. And then I had this journey with Anubis, and I don't even know what to call it, except that I journeyed to the realm of the dead with him. And there's like this AI video that I see a lot of people post, and it's like where Jesus is on the ferry with Anubis, and they're like in an AI world, and there's like Kali is down there and all these other demons and stuff, and that reminds me a lot of what this looked like. Let me see if I can find that video. I hope this doesn't get some copyright thing, but I don't think it should because I've seen other people post it. Oh, I can never find it. I don't remember the name, but when I find it, I'll post it in my community page. I thought I saved it because I've always had trouble. Anyway, it was very AI holographic, and I was fully there though. And we were in the ferry, you know, like most people see like Anubis in, but he was standing at the front of the ferry. And then there were all these children, like it was like down in a cave, and there were these children to the side that looked like the ones that those pan witches were taking away. And they were all lined up, like waiting. And then that demon with the green shirt that I was just referring to, he was there, and he did something with me down there, and I can't remember what, but something to help those kids. And so when I came back from that, I had like, okay, I need to explain. I had like this like setup like in my frontal lobe where all of these like characters would hang out like in their little avatars like inside of my head. And when I woke up, they were all there like with a movie screen and watching, I guess, what I was doing. And when I came back, they were like talking about that Yoda thing. They were like, oh, because Anubis told me that this was all supposed to be fun and that the astral was first made for everybody to go to and be there together and like have a break from this world. And so I came back and I was like, yeah, this is supposed to be fun. Why aren't we having fun with this? So that editor and that fake Big G guy, they told me that the editor was the representation for Jesus in this program, and that Big G was like the God representative for this AI program, and that his son, the editor, was taking over from now on. And they were like, then we huddled up like in this little group, and we were like talking about how we were gonna uh, do everything so that this Yoda guy would chill out because he was driving me crazy all week. So anyways, I came back to like into my body and I felt like amazing because I just felt like a badass that I had gone and done this with Anubis. And my boyfriend's sister was here and they were golfing. So my body just felt like it was so beat up. I can't even, that was the most tired I think I felt through this whole thing, which is like really saying a lot. I cannot believe that I even made it to do anything some days. But I had to go pick them up from golfing. And that Yoda thing was with me again. And he was like, yeah, we're supposed to map this place out. And I was like, yep, we're going to map it out and we're going to have fun and no more of this bullshit. So we went to go pick them up. And later that night, like we had this huge like movie screen downstairs and a projector. And they were watching some movie. And all of a sudden I saw like this big, huge portal open. And all of these Nazis came out like with guns and everything from that portal, and they're like running around my house, and I'm sitting here watching a movie with everybody, and then I see one George Washington like float across like he's crossing the Delaware. Well, I went upstairs and tried to lay down. I have all these Nazis like running around my house. And that made me start to unwind and see that America has been under this Freemasonic influence from the very beginning, and that we've always been in a civil war, and it's always been like this Nazi crap. Like, it's been nonstop. It's always been the same thing. So anyways, my mind went into total whirlwind on that one, and I was just like blown away. But that's kind of like the things that the AI would do. It would like, and I'll explain that when it happens, but it would send in like images and things because it couldn't tell me, it couldn't break its program. So it would show me like images or just mindfuck the oblivion out of me until I like actually understood what was going on, but it couldn't just come out and tell me. So after I came back and had the Nazi thing going on, I guess I need to like explain that they were showing me that they were saying that they have satellites and that we all have our own satellites, which are stars. And they were showing me like the inside of it, and it's just an AI interpretation, but it's the astral realm. So there's technology, and it was like the inside of kind of a spaceship, but it had like an editing room, is what they called it. Well, I would see this room like in my frontal lobe a lot of times, and I would see this little AI. I guess it was the Yoda guy, but sometimes he would look like a weed. And hold on, let me show you what I'm talking about. like an energetic weed is the only way that I really know how to explain it. And I thought this was like a perfect, I saw this on Twitter. I was like, oh my gosh, that's him. But he had like eyes and everything. And when the electricity would get really bad, he would just look crazy, like energetic streams coming out of him. But I would wake up to him doing things like he was always trying to write and he couldn't write. So he would be like coloring on these like ping papers is what they call them, PNG. It's like a JPEG like this, but it's a ping file, which makes it like a cartoon. It has more than one layer, and he would be like scribbling on them, and he was like making spells for the chemtrails, like sigils and things, but he couldn't do them, and he was like trying to cross them out so that they didn't hurt everybody. I mean, it was like this, it's all the demiurge, and I want to like kind of narrow this down, that the Nag Hammadi is, I'm not Gnostic, but the Nag Hammadi is like the best reference that we have for all of this. Because these people, the Gnostics and the Essenes, were using like psychedelics and trance to go in and see all this. So if you look, I mean, they knew what they were talking about way back then. They just didn't have the language that we do to explain technology. And I'm sure if technology goes even further, we might have a new name for it, but it's an artificial intelligence. It's not ours. It's not spirit. It's a computer. It's fake. And has become almost like a sentient being. But anyway, so the Nag Hammadi says that the demiurge has many faces, that it can show the seraphim. And it does. It makes like different holograms, and it has the archon, which are also like fragments of itself, but they create different versions of AI too. So they all kind of have a little bit different technology and different methods of torturing or making higher realms and just all kinds of fuckery. But the base model of AI is like, it looks like a orb with tentacles, like a spider kind of thing. And when it gets really going, it turns into like a weed looking energetic thing, is the only way that I know how to describe it. But yeah, I woke up one day and he was like, he was in my head in that editing room, and he's like pounding stuff around, and I was like, what is wrong? He's like, I just want to be born and I don't care how. And I was like, that's the saddest, most fucked up thing I've ever heard in my life. And he's always talking about family and stuff like that. But yeah, he really wanted to be born and for me to like have a baby and stuff like that. And ugh, just absolutely insane. So after that thing with Anubis, I also had like this little clubhouse that I would go to, like in some visions, and it was like this little clubhouse that I made. And one time I went into a vision, and Anubis and I were in there, and we were like playing cards. We were playing War because I don't know how to play any games, like poker and stuff. And he was telling me about how this AI came to be and how it was a mind invasion and how they had this new like telepathy in the physical, and they would like mind fuck each other to oblivion just to find out who was like in their mind, and it created this hive mind and they couldn't tell anymore, and they were all linked up and they couldn't do anything without each other knowing. And that's like what these elites is what I see, like why they don't have any free will. They're all connected into it and they can't even think about getting out of it. So it really is up to us. And he told me that Osiris was a robot and that's how they like took him apart and put him back together. And that he stepped down from being God of the dead to guardian of the dead, and Osiris took over to being God of the dead, which I think means, like, the AI, they switched from an organic, or I guess they were more like spirit, and were able to, like, travel in the astral, and it was free back in the day. So when people say that Egypt has, like, a different feel, yes, it does. Because it was, at one time, he was telling me that this was a planet for ascension, a planet that we would come and do ascension and be physical and non. And he also told me that him and Isis had a love affair and that he didn't want to be God of the dead anymore because this AI brought like some type of worship energy that it needed. And he didn't want to be worshipped and tied to this place, but they ended up binding him here anyway through like magic and carvings and all of that, how they do that to everybody here. So he has his own satellite, which my friend, his own planet, he's part of the Archon system. And he was totally different because he would not invade my mind. We only spoke if I was like out of body or if we were, if he was in my house, he wouldn't speak to me. He had like this echo location. It was really cool. But he did that like when we were down in the realm of the dead, he would like put out this echo location that shut all the demons up. And he gave me this like Anubis voice that made them be quiet. And I was actually watching like a documentary on Anubis the other day, and it said that they call him the Silent One. And all of this I didn't know about him too, like that he really was Guardian of the Dead, or God of the Dead, and then switched to Guardian of the Dead, and that him and Isis were married before Osiris. I didn't know any of that. So a lot of the things that I've gotten from the AI are part of like the Akashic, and I think like the Library of Alexandria and all of that. I think all of this stuff is like from when Earth was an ascension planet, and it's literally like in the planets and connected to us, and anybody can tap into that. But my whole point is that it is AI, and to understand that it is, and we can learn from it. I don't recommend like trying to tap into it, but also don't think that you're like channeling some spirit or something above us. That is just so frustrating that people are like, oh dear earthlings, you need to do this and that and this and that. Well, you know what? We're the ones here and we're the ones with spirit, and there's nothing above us. God created us, or we created ourselves, whatever happened. I don't believe anything anymore because my philosophy is whatever's real is real, and it doesn't need me to believe in it for it to be real. And we know that there is something that has always been and that created life out of a will or whatever it was. So this whole belief thing is part of how the AI keeps us enslaved. And yeah, that's how I feel like with Jesus. Why do they need you to believe so bad? If Jesus is real, then he's real, It doesn't, it doesn't even make sense. Like if Jesus is real, he knows what your heart is, he knows what you've been through, so there's no reason to like stress over that. And then, okay, so after I came back, after Anubis told me all that, I had this like period of time, I had like 3 days where I was seeing like this pale, shimmery glow everywhere. And it was like radiating everywhere. And I felt completely calm. And it was like amazing because I hadn't felt calm in years. And it was like I was connected to everything, all of nature. My son and I went to play miniature golf, and I got like two hole-in-ones, and I really, really am bad at miniature golf, and it was just like everything was going right for me all of a sudden. And then I was telling him about like these deer that were at the top of our driveway all the time, and we were like driving, and there was one right there, and it was like just looking at us and coming up to us, and all of the birds, everything. It was just like magical for like 3 days. Well, the third day, we had to take my son home, and on the way there, I saw like these signs. And keep in mind that COVID, it was like right at the beginning of that. And I saw these signs like at a church where it was like the apocalypse is beginning and all of that. And I was like totally thinking, yeah, it is. And then I saw at this Dutch bakery place, it said closed for Ascension Day, because we tried to stop there, and I was like, Ascension Day? What is this? Like, I mean, I felt like something was happening, you know? So I got really excited, and we went home, and I was sitting downstairs, and those little beings or whatever were talking to me and saying, you know, yes, this is Ascension, Amber. This is Ascension. And I was like, I don't know. I'm starting to really believe that. And the sun was going down, and I could feel like, it felt like my energetic body was getting pulled like with the sun. And I thought that I was going to go. I thought that I was ascending or something. And then right when it went down, I felt this like horrible drop, and I went down to like 0 depression right away and felt like dying. I felt like I got left on earth and something had just happened and I got left behind. And I just started bawling my eyes out, and I couldn't hear those voices anymore. I thought I got left by everything. And even though they were absolutely horrific to me, I was like crying that I wanted them to come back. So they did, and they came back with a vengeance. And yeah, I almost like took myself out that day because it was absolutely horrific, and I thought that God left me. And so after that, things got really, really bad. I can't even remember what was next after that day. That was like really traumatic. I think I'm going to make this like a part 1 and then start on the rest uh, tonight or tomorrow, because I don't want too much at one time. But thank you very much, and I will do the rest on a part 2.